Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the One and O podcast. I'm Avery Hill,
I'm Lyle Allenstein.
And I'm Lucky Linderman.
Drew Ryler, Zachy Wheatley, Nick Dawkins, and James Franklin travel to Las Vegas for Big Ten Media Days this week. We're going to just touch on that today, guys. What stood out most?
I think this was the first time we kind of heard Franklin address on a national scale the expectations that are being held to this team this year. I mean, obviously, since all the like Drew, Nick, Katron, all of them announced they're coming back, like everyone's been like, "Oh, this is like the perfect formula for national championship." And Franklin went as far to say at Big Ten Media Day, said this is the best overall group of personnel he feels like he's ever had at Penn State, which checks out. The staff is probably one of the best he's ever had, and the group of players is definitely one of the best he's ever had. But it was interesting to kind of hear him say that. And then he was asked about it, like if that puts more pressure on him and this team to a national championship. And he basically was like, who cares about preseason rankings? Like what matters is the end of the season. And obviously, like he expressed like gratitude for like all the hype and like he feels like it shows that like they're doing like a good job there at Penn State. But yeah, he also said he felt like these are the expectations every year at Penn State. So it was just kind of interesting to hear him address that on a national scale for the first time. And I think it's like a question that he's going to hear all the way up until week one, all the way up to that Oregon game. So I don't think it's the last time that we're going to hear about this from him, but I just thought that that was really interesting.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you said about the national expectations. You go back to last year's Big Ten Media Days, and he was talking about how their Penn State fan base is one of the only fan bases in the country that is unhappy with a 10-2 season, even if at that point it results in the playoffs, despite when you're making the change from the 4 to the 12 team era. But then you look at all those losses to Michigan and Ohio State, and that's really what the fan base looks at when you evaluate big game James not being able to get it done, whatever, when it really matters, except for the matchups that he's favored in. So in a sense, I feel like he kind of addressed that again but factoring in the national expectations. I think Penn State's going to be preseason 1, 2, or 3 between them, Ohio State, and Texas, no matter what the order is you want to look at it. But, he's like, the expectation hasn't really changed. Their goal every year is to make the playoff and win the national championship, regardless of what the roster looks like. The construction, obviously, yes, you could say that for every team across the country, but, it's different hearing it from a program like Penn State with the caliber of athlete that they get every single year, regardless of how it stacks up nationally. Like they're among the top, but I don't know. I think it's just like didn't really have a whole lot to say about it. I feel like just because in his point of view, nothing really has changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was kind of just waiting on that response from James Franklin and the team. When you kind of look at it, that buzz had kind of been brewing all year. But as James Franklin said, like those expectations are something that Penn State has faced year by year from their fans, which I personally think is interesting because like Penn State hasn't, won a national championship since the 20th century. Like what, two divisions? No, three division titles in the 21st century. Or yeah, or conference titles, my bad. But three conference titles in the 21st century. But the expectation remains tough. Like you got to win the big game, you got to win the national championship. So I mean, I think it is something that does benefit Penn State to a point because these expectations are nothing new. They're used to, as James Franklin says, that 1-0 mentality. Like we're just focused on trying to win every game. Focus on, fixing these little things, getting everything right. Obviously they want to win a national championship, and I know like when Drew and Zachy and Nick Dawkins were all on the stage for I think the Big Ten Network's little interview with them, they said like, of course, you talk about winning a national championship, but they want to, go out there and prove it. Nothing matters until, you put the pads on, until you play these games, until you have to get through Oregon, until you have to get through Ohio State. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was overall interesting to see. I mean, I think we all kind of knew what James Franklin would say. I mean, he doesn't really like, as Nick Saban, who might make a coaching return soon, as he likes to say, like they're not really big on taking the rat poison. Penn State is a very traditional program in the sense of like we just want to put on the pad and show what we can do. Um, Penn State obviously has had the chance to do that, and the expectations are big. I think another thing that's kind of interesting to me in that realm, though, is just how much the buzz has really brewed. Like you talk about the preseason media poll that Penn State was ranked to win, or was voted to win the Big Ten. They were ranked number one in the Big Ten by the media poll. That really shows because again, you have the Ohio State national championship. team. You have Oregon, who was undefeated until they ran into Ohio State, and it was a bloodbath. So it's very stark expectations, and it kind of reminds me of honestly last year with Ohio State. Ohio State, they went in the portal, got Judkins. They obviously secured Jeremiah Smith. Like everyone, I feel like last year was kind of that. Okay, we know Ohio State is winning. It's just a matter of if they actually prove that they're the best team in the country. That's really how the buzz has been for Penn State. I mean, to go along with that, a lot of the hype has been about Drew Aller, about him being, a Heisman Trophy winner potentially, about him really being the guy to kind of lead this team. I mean, what did you guys kind of think about that? Do you think, his the hype is fair? Do you think that the expectations are realistic at all?
I think it's just really interesting that I feel like after the Orange Bowl interception, just like everyone was just completely like dismissing him as like a top quarterback just because of that. And I feel like how fast everyone flushed it, like the national media was really surprising to me because I feel like now, like everyone is talking about Drew as this top three, top five quarterback that could potentially win the Heisman Trophy that might lead Penn State to a national championship. And it's like no one was really saying that after that Orange Bowl loss to Notre Dame. And like all of a sudden just like this switch has just flipped and now everyone is on the Drew Aller hype train. But James Franklin talked about at his podium presser, basically saying that what he said to like the local media many times that they're expecting Drew to take another step forward. He's taken a step forward every year he's played football. Franklin even went back to his when he was recruiting Eller and talked about how he started as a 3-star and then ended up as a 5 and how he's just taken steps every single year. So the hype is definitely there. I think because he's a senior, because he has taken a step forward every year, I think that it's valid, especially with the three new receivers that he has. I mean, I don't think Aller has ever had a group like that. And I think I saw somewhere he said that he's never really had a group like this at his disposal. So I think with all that combined, like yeah, the hype is there. It's just a matter of if he is going to live up to it because obviously there's the Oregon and Ohio State games. He really hasn't had a big game performance that people talk about. It's really just been, those losses to Ohio State. So I think he has a chance to prove it. He has a chance to win the Heisman if he has a really good year. It's just a matter of if he actually lives up to all this hype that everyone is throwing at him.
Yeah, when you look at what James Franklin said at his main podium address, it's stuff we've all really heard as local media, like, oh, he's great, he's taking a step forward, he's gonna talk his guy up, which is fair. This is a national audience. We're among what 30 to 40 people that are close to the program on a day-to-day basis, so it's not like it's anything new. But everything he says is fair when you're talking about the broad view of Drew, the growth and everything from a recruit to where he is now, year 4 in the program, going to be year 3 as a starter. Obviously, he's had some things that have brought him down a little bit. You look at Mike Yursich, wide receivers, 0 catches, a couple of bad interceptions. Like it's all fair about how you want to view him, but I feel like nationally, there's no middle ground as to where Drew is as a quarterback regarding all these, like, I don't know what to call them excuses, but like things that have hindered him and how he's viewed as a player. I feel like you could look at him as the top quarterback just based on his pedigree, his intangibles, who he really could be as a football player. I mean, I know this is a lazy comparison, but I look at what Josh Allen, who's same frame, who was terrible at Wyoming, but like,
Terrible. I mean,
okay,
50% completion percentage, but he was throwing bullets.
right, like, but like it's like the same thing. Like it's a weak competition. Drew played against better competition. Obviously, again, like I said, weak comparison, but like he's got all the tools to be an NFL quarterback that you can just bank on upside taking him early. But then there's the other end of it where it's like, who has he beaten? SMU, Boise State, like sure, but like if you, whatever. Like I don't really think those are big games. But if then at the same time you've got the national stage of it being a college football playoff, and then if he loses those games, it's the other way around where it's like, oh, he gets ripped into it. It's obviously we could say the same thing about James Franklin, but that's a different conversation. But I just feel like there's no fair way to judge Drew as a quarterback of where he is right now. I feel like obviously this is the obvious, but this season is really how you view him as a prospect. He's got 2 running backs coming back over 1,000 yards, 3 transfer wide receivers, 4 returning starters on the offensive line. Year 2 with Andy Kolnicki, which I don't know if this is a hot take. He's a better offensive coordinator than Mike Yursich, dare I say it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Makes
it's
you
a
think
hot
that.
take there. I don't know. I feel like Drew's got a lot to prove. But everyone, you look at it 2 years ago when he was crying after losses to Ohio State and Michigan and couldn't keep his composure post game, to where now he's grown as he's going to likely be a 2-time captain once that gets announced before the season. And yeah, I mean, look, there's no more excuses. You can't really point to making excuses for as quarterback of a team that's a championship contender. But he's got wide receivers with proven production, which addresses the main issue. Year 2 familiarity with a very good offensive coordinator, and that's where it stands right now.
I also think it's interesting to point out like Drew's physicality coming into this year. He is like the leanest I think he's ever been, at least from what Franklin is saying, and his weight. And he was throwing shirtless in a video posted by Brad Mailer, which I don't think we've ever seen Drew. Like he doesn't ever really throw without. Okay, you guys, why are we
There's
like
no way you just said
Crazy pool. Crazy pool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because as y'all said, like the narrative is kind of flipped. Um, just from the Orange Bowl. Like he hasn't played a snap, obviously didn't play in the blue white game. Like there's no extra film on Drew Aller, but I guess it's kind of how the narrative of quarterbacks goes. Like you hate him when you want to hate him, like in the moment, recency bias, and then all of a sudden, oh, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, and again, I think the Drew Aller hype is warranted. I think that he really took a step up just by staying another year, even though he hasn't played a snap. Like I think going into at least going into before he made his decision and everything, I didn't see Drala as a first round talent or not. I thought him as a first round talent, but I don't think he would have been drafted in the first round. I think again, talent wise, I think he has the arm to do it. I think he has the intangibles to do it. I think he, physically, like I think he would have panned out just fine in the NFL. But I just don't think, especially last season, that he would have been a first round guy. But again, this is his year to prove it, and he has a lot of hope for it. I think another thing that was interesting that James Franklin mentioned, which I mean, I don't know where he got this from and how deep in the stat sheet he is, but he was talking about, since 1956, he's one of two FBS quarterbacks with 800 plus completions, 50 plus touchdowns, and 10 or less interceptions.
ESPN stat line.
Yeah, I'm not a fact checker. Like I didn't go behind and check that, but I'm gonna take him at his word for it. I mean, it is impressive. Obviously, again, Franklin's going to really hype up his guy. I mean, he's not just throwing out blank stats and everything. I mean, I think it goes to show not just the I wouldn't say consistency, but I would just say the body of work from Drew Aller. I mean, he has been stepping in even since his freshman year when he would relieve Sean Clifford for a couple plays and stuff like that. They work him in a little bit, and he's really improved every year. I think that's a fair take to say. I think you can also see him changing as a player in the sense to where he's becoming more versatile. You saw him last year take off run a little more. I think because coming to Penn State, I remember his comparison was Josh Allen. That's kind of what everyone said. Like he's like this, 6'5" quarterback. He can run. He has the arm strength to do everything. Like I don't think he has the Josh Allen arm strength. I think no one does really. Like I really can't think of one that does. Maybe Joe Milton, but outside of Joe Milton, there's not really much guys with the Josh Allen arm. That's ridiculous. And Pat Mahomes, of course, but he has the arm talent. He can make so many different plays with his arms. Again, he can make plays with his legs. So yeah, I mean, I think it is definitely warranted. I think it'll be interesting to see if he lives up to the hype because obviously, regardless of what he does, he can go 30 touchdowns, 0 picks in the other games. But even if he loses to Oregon and or Ohio State, then it's going to be, oh, he can't win the big game. It doesn't matter. He's lighting up Villanova and FIU and Nevada, which is fair. But I mean, I do think that he'll have some impressive showings, and we'll see, how that turns out if he'll, kind of be a Heisman Trophy candidate or anything like that. Another thing that James Franklin kind of touched on, each time he has a press conference, he does have his complaints, whether it's NIL, something. This time it was about being in Vegas. As I saw a picture of the SEC media days versus the Big Ten media days, and it was a stark difference. You could say the same about the ACC media days, but we can credit that to Bill Belichick. Like the room was packed, it was full. Like it's Bill Belichick, we get it. But I mean, I kind of wanted to get you guys' take on this. What did you think? Do you think it should be in Vegas? Obviously, we weren't there because it was in Vegas. That's a little steep. So I mean, I just kind of want to get y'all take on it. What do y'all think?
I just think that the way it was handled from a wide lens is not great. I mean, like I agree with all of James Franklin's points, but like at the same time, you're not hearing a team from the West Coast Conference complain about being in the Midwest. when it was, in Indianapolis or whatever. I know the whole bring it back to Chicago thing is kind of getting thrown around right now. But like obviously your new team in the conference, I forget who said it, but they don't need to wear a name tag anymore. Like
Washington, I think.
was it?
It was Jedfish.
It was
Yeah.
Jedfish. Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought, but I didn't want to get that wrong. But we got some ball knowers in here. But so I just think there's that. But then you look at like how the whole playoff potential expansion to 16 teams was handled. Every single coach across these conferences were asked about it, and the Big Ten, obviously the SEC was gassing itself to make it seem like it's the premier conference. Big Ten was doing the same thing, but the Big Ten kept referring to the SEC as the other conference, and you got SEC, Mr. Sankey, going to Twitter and tweeting the other conference with a new logo, and I'm just like, it's not like, yes, your media day went better, like it was handled better. You kept it in the same spot in Dallas as it's always been. Whatever. Like I think James was blowing his comments out of proportion. Like I don't like. It's a 3-day long media. Like I don't want to call it like a parade, a circus, whatever. It's just like you're talking to so many different people, local, national. James didn't complain because there was no local media, but like you have to do it. I don't really think it matters where it is. It's not like this is a fan experience. Like you're talking to people that nationally have to get information about your team, even though you're not following it year round, like a bunch of local reporters. It's just something you have to do. I mean, like I get Vegas. Like you look at the setup on day 3 for how many people were in there compared to the SEC in Big Ten. Nobody was in there, but I don't know. Maybe it's lack of engagement, whatever. I mean, Dallas, it's every single year. Like, it's easier. People know what they're doing. So I don't know. James complains sometimes. You look at the runway line. You talk about Notre Dame not being in a conference, which he did again. When he talked about they don't need to go through the gauntlet of playing teams like Purdue and USC. He said Purdue. That's all I really got to say there. But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing here is that I guess he just wants like consistency, and I think that that's just important. Kind of like Lyle said with like SEC having theirs in Dallas every single year, and like it was in Chicago this year, and they moved to Indianapolis for the past couple years, and then they just moved again, and like who knows where it's gonna be next year? I don't know, but so I think they just need some consistency. I don't really think it matters exactly where it is. It's like sure there's like this such thing as like Big Ten country, but like it really isn't that big of a deal, I guess, where you're having because at the end of the day, like every year, this is just a chance for James Franklin to address the national media. Like everything he says, the local media already knows. Like it's not like that big of a deal if it's close to Penn State because the local media again already knows like pretty much everything he's gonna say about the team. Like there aren't gonna be really many new updates because like summer practice hasn't even started yet. It's like so there just isn't really anything. He's just complaining for no reason, which like he tends to do sometimes, like Lyle said. So, it's just that's just how it's gonna be moving forward.
It's not like ESPN is asking where Alonzo Ford is at right now, like
Exactly.
True statement. True statement. Yeah. I mean, I think like also if you think about the SEC, like they added Texas, they added Oklahoma. Like it was like everyone is like you're not. It's not a cross country trip, so I think that is definitely a difference. Like it those flights are like maybe 2 hours, and that's just because Texas is big. So like if you're trying to get through, I think Dallas is like near the middle of Texas. I can't remember. Only went to Dallas Love Field on a connection, so don't know. Don't really like going to Dallas. Not a big Dallas fan for many reasons, but so I don't, but still, it's a lot different when you compare it to the Big Ten because you have Washington, you have, USC, you have UCLA. So there's not really a good middle point. Like, I don't know, would Iowa be the middle point? There's not really a good middle point. So I think, but I do think it would be a good idea for the Big Ten to kind of alternate through the years. I don't think they need to stay in one spot because it is kind of inconvenient for one way or another. But I think another thing that's also interesting to me is I do not remember because I think about I think it was going into the USC week. They were talking about traveling to California, or no, 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 going to UCLA. They're talking about bringing in UCLA and talking about, bringing in cupcakes and everything and welcoming them. And he talked about like we went to California for welcome week to welcome them then, so we don't need to now. I didn't hear any complaints about going to California for welcome week. I'm just saying I didn't like, so I don't really, I don't know what the consistency is there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. Obviously, it does limit the amount of local media that can come, but I don't really think that was his concern. I think it is just an overall like, why are we going out to Vegas? I mean, it could also be with his players. Like he only brought three, but you never know what could happen. It is Vegas. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You never know. I mean, even James might, have a little bit of fun, but not too much, obviously for obvious reasons. But maybe he just didn't want to have that much fun. I think he wants to be locked in going into training camp. That could really be an idea of his. So I mean, you never know. Obviously it was in Vegas and he was there, so I guess that's kind of all that mattered. I think one last thing we kind of want to touch on is when I know Nick Dawkins kind of talked about it and James Franklin kind of talked about it. Zariah Fisher again. I know Nick said that he is this guy that's, a power rusher, but also speed rusher. Like again, a mix of everything. He has the size, he has everything. I mean, I kind of want to leave to you guys. Do you think that he is even being underrated, maybe even by us? Is there something we're missing? Like, should we expect him to be, at the level of maybe of the Dennis Sutton, maybe even better? Like, I mean, I kind of wanted to get you guys' take on that.
I do not think he's going to be better than Dennis Sutton. I'll start there. But no, the expectation. I mean, locally, I feel like we're all aware that we should be talking about Zariah Fisher. I know Lexi wrote about him this summer. I wrote about him, I feel like, during like the thick of when there was literally nothing going on in like February.
TSUcollegian.com, you can find it right there.
Yeah.
Click the
Like,
football tab, but it probably won't be there right now. So just click the search, type
we'll
in
scroll.
Zariah Fisher, Lexi Linderman, or Lyle Allenstein, and you can find it right there. Lexi Lexie, just so you know.
Yeah. But I feel like at this point, we're all aware of Zariah Fisher. I feel like he needs to make the case nationally. I'm sure not a whole lot of people nationally know who Max Granville is and that he is out with a long term injury. But, you have to address
I think Heather
whether it's
Dennis does.
directly. Yeah. You have to address directly or indirectly the loss of Abdul Carter, whether you want to name drop him or not, where that defensive end spot is looking. And I don't want to go in depth about where this defensive end room is because I feel like we've talked about it ad nauseum. But I remember last year, I don't think it was at the podium. I think it was at the Big Ten Network interview or something on the side that was broadcasted. He was asked, I think it might have been the Cover 3 podcast. He was asked about who was a guy that no one directly, who was a guy that nobody is talking about that people should be talking about. And he said Audavian Collins. And I think that was an interesting answer because we heard a lot of buzz starting in the spring with Audavian Collins. And it's not like he carved out a real role because, you had Jalen Kimber, AJ Harris, obviously Elliott Washington. But when Zion Tracy got hurt, Audavian Collins played some really good football toward the end of the year. And he's a guy that we're it's been known. Terry Smith said in April, like, AJ Harris is the one, but like Elliott Washington, Audavian Collins are as close as you can be. They're going to play the same amount of snaps. They're all going to see the field. So I think that's interesting. And then I know Zariah Fisher was a big topic, but when was at the main podium, James Franklin talked about Khalil Dinkins, which I'm all for. I don't think enough people are talking about Khalil Dinkins.
I agree.
You look nationally, they're all talking about Luke Reynolds, and for good reason. I think Luke Reynolds is going to be a great tight end at Penn State, and I think he's going to be a very good player down the road, whether you look at NFL or where he is in the long lineage of Penn State tight ends. But Khalil Dinkins is a good football player himself. And I know he's probably not the flashy guy that because everyone talks about Luke Reynolds with this recruiting pedigree, that fake snap he had at Minnesota, excuse me. Like, he's a great football player for all good reasons. But Khalil Dinkins is the guy who does the grunt work. He blocks, gets the ball on fourth down. He's the red zone target. And he's been with this program. He's waited his turn just like all the other tight ends. And we'll see if it comes to fruition. I feel like this is becoming a running theme for James to talk on the podium or on a podcast or whatever, or some local media segment about a guy that unless you follow the team locally, you're probably like, who is he? But I don't know. I like the Khalil Dinkins take by James. I'm a big fan of that one.
Going back to Zariah Fisher, I don't think he's gonna be as good as Dennis Sutton, but I do think there is a big chance for him to have a really big impact with this defense because you talk about the defensive line and you have Zane Durant and Dennis Sutton, obviously. Then the other two spots, it's like two veteran guys that are coming off long-term injuries and you don't really know what you're gonna get from them. But it seems like the staff and the team is really excited about both Zariah Fisher and Alonzo Ford. So I think, especially with Max Granville out, I mean, I kind of figured Max Granville and Zariah Fisher were going to split snaps with Zariah probably having a little bit more. But like now it just seems like the job is Zariah's. Like it's his to just completely lose. Like there's no one really, I don't think, in competition with him at this point. I mean, there's always competition, but and so I just think Zariah Fisher has a really good chance to have a really big year because I mean, obviously offensive lines have to worry about Deni Dennis Sutton and Zane Duran. So it kind of like opens more doors up for Zariah Fisher. So he has a really good chance to take advantage of that. But with the tight end things that Lyle brought up, I also thought it was interesting that Andrew Rapplier was mentioned by James even before he mentioned Luke Reynolds. I mean, obviously Rapplier is coming off that long-term injury, but he was a guy that I know the staff was really excited about before the 2024 season. He didn't get to see the field. We haven't seen him play since that injury. I don't think he didn't suit up in the blue-white game. At least from what I can remember. And so it's intriguing to hear him talk about Ratley on a national scale because that's a guy that I know a lot of people were excited about. And so it'll be interesting to see like how that playing time is split along among the tight ends because obviously last year it was Tyler Warren, Khalil Dinkins, and Luke Reynolds seeing most of the time. But mostly Reynolds got the green light because Dinkins was hurt a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how they split that. I still don't know who the starter is going to be. I would lean Dinkins just because of his experience, but we'll just have to see come week one.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of going off the tight end conversation, a good thing for Penn State is that they can run a lot of 12 personnel. They can run, 22, whatever you kind of want to run to have two tight ends in the game. That is something Penn State has run and will run. Even if you want to put, because Khalil Dinkins has been split in the backfield a couple times, kind of as a fullback, in instances because of his ability as a run blocker. I mean, I think Khalil Dinkins, I think it's safe to say that he is one of the, as a tight end, is one of the best run blocking tight ends in the country. I think that's safe to say. I think when he gets to the goal line, I would challenge anyone to go look at Khalil Dinkins and watch. Like a lot of the times he's blowing a guy out the end zone. Which again, short distance, it is not that easy to blow a guy way out there because all he's trying to do is hold his ground. All the guys like when you're at the goal line, hold your ground, create a pile. The only power that he is making is over top of a cameraman on the sideline when Khalil Dinkins is blocking whoever that is. Like I think Khalil Dinkins is probably going to have a really good year. I don't know what he shapes out as a prospect. I think he does go on to have an NFL career, and I think he has a good one, a quality career. But I don't think he comes out as this, Tyler Warren prospect. But I mean, I think he's taken all the right steps. Ty Howe again has talked about like the first step is really being able to block. Once you can block, it opens up so much on the passing end. I think who starts doesn't really matter. The technical, like who takes that first snap. I don't really think that matters. I think he and Luke Reynolds will have a good year. I think they will both get a lot of chances in the offense, whether it's as a run blocker, which Luke Reynolds, as Talhouse noted, has gotten better at. And whether it's in the pass game as well as you talk about, Khalil Dinkins can be that red zone threat. I think it'll be definitely interesting to see, how that shapes up. And then of course Andrew Rapplier, I think we'll see where he kind of slots in. I think he obviously is that third tight end guy, but we'll see how much snaps he gets. We'll see, where he is. I think we expected to see a lot of him last year before he got injured. I think he played a little bit of the West Virginia game before he got out for the year, and then all of a sudden we haven't seen him, or he might have got injured the week before. I can't remember, but either way, I think Penn State, as usual, per usual, is in a good spot in the tight end room. I think if you go back to Zariah Fisher in the defensive end room, I think that he is set for a quality year. I don't know if that surpasses Deni Dennis Sutton, but that's just because Deni Dennis Sutton has so many reps. He's been doing this since his freshman year. He has the ability in my eyes. Again, we haven't really seen it at Penn State, but maybe in some packages, especially in Jim Knowles' defense, you could see him kick into, be a three tech for a couple plays, be, four eye, whatever you want. And that'll just open opportunities to have not just him, not just Uriah Fisher, but also Nye White in there. I think it'll be a pretty big year for both of those guys. Talking about Dennis Sutton and Zariah Fisher. I think the last time you saw Zariah Fisher, he had 3.5 sacks, which is a quality showing. I think again, like there was so many guys. You look back to the days with Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson. I said look back as if I'm old, but either way, Adisa Isaac, Chop Robinson. All those past years where Penn State is loaded at defensive end. I think obviously Max Scrambles injury hurts, but I think that sentiment can still stand in the sense that they have at least three guys who can be ready to go. We'll see, how Jalen Harvey comes on. we'll see how some of the other guys comes on, like Kyle Williams, things like that. But I mean, I think Penn State is in good shape, and I think James Franklin again is going to give the national media just the things that they have been asking, but the things that local media has known for a while. Zariah Fisher is a guy to circle. Khalil Dinkins is a guy to circle. Luke Reynolds is a guy to circle. I won't go on to name the whole roster. I don't think we're that far in it, but
Gotta mention Joey Schlaffer.
okay, we can throw
Right, of
Schlaffer in
course.
there.
Put on some weight.
You want to throw in Emil Davis and a couple other guys, you can do that. But I definitely think, obviously Penn State's in a good shape. There's a reason why, again, they are at the top of the media poll for the Big Ten. So it'll just be interesting to see, how each of these guys' year shapes out, especially in a season like this. Well, that's all we have. For more coverage, visit us at psucollegian.com or follow us on socials at Daily Collegian. We will see you next time. Bye bye.